Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Welcome back to the Straight Pad podcast. It's been a while since I've went live, and alhamdulillah, we are live today, and we have a very special guest, as we always say, Brother Farhan Ahmed, who is a marriage coach. He has a master's in mental health, right?
Masters in Clinical Mental Health Counseling.
Master's in clinical mental health. And alhamdulillah, he's been in this industry, or he's been in this field and area of expertise for some time now. And he runs an organization or entity called Ihsan Coaching, which provides premarital, marital, postmarital, and all different kinds of coaching
So
to what is it?
individual, premarital, marital.
Individual, marital, premarital, all there's a whole list of it. You can go to coaching.com and find out everything. But assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brother Farhan. How are you?
Assalamu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you doing, Hafiz Asad?
Alhamdulillah, I'm well. So, brother Farhan, you want to let us know a little bit more about yourself, or that was sufficient enough introduction?
No, so alhamdulillah, I started up Ihsan Coaching about 4 years ago. I'm a licensed therapist. This is coaching, which is a little bit different than therapy. And why I like it so much is because it's solution focused, goal oriented. In traditional therapy, it's more trauma based and it's about going back into the past, where this is the here and now and what we want to do going forward, right? And setting goals. So I think it's a very proactive, it's faster paced. People are getting what they want quicker. And but I do got to preface it by saying that it's not for everyone. Like, if you're going through trauma, if you're going through suicidal ideation, if you're going through something very severe, then you do need therapy, right? Um, so alhamdulillah, we see a lot of individuals, we see a lot of marital couples, and alhamdulillah, within 4 to 8 sessions, they usually get what they need to be able to course correct in their marriages and go move forward.
Alhamdulillah. So, how long have you been in this industry now?
I've been in this industry for over 10 plus years, alhamdulillah.
Subhanallah.
Yeah, so quite
So, mashallah, Farhan has also studied ilm to some extent. He's not a complete alim or a complete scholar, but he's studied a decent bit. Mashallah, one of his brothers is a mufti as well. So he has they also do religious consultation as well.
yeah.
So, subhanallah, they have a lot of things that they offer. So if you're looking for any kind of coaching, what's it called? And as he said, that's a proper term to use because of the extent of what they do. So if you're looking for any kind of coaching, definitely reach out to Ahsan Coaching. They have a good team of coaches who help out all kinds of couples from all walks of life and all backgrounds.
Yeah, and just for the audience, IHSAN coaching.com. You can look us up on Google and you can find us there, inshallah.
Yeah. Can we find you on Yelp?
Yelp? No, unfortunately not. No.
But anyway,
And you
so
can find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, right?
yeah, there's a lot of content out there, alhamdulillah. So the reason we're having these conversations, that for the next, inshallah, next 3 to 4 weeks we'll be having these conversations. And the reason we have these conversations is, as we're seeing in our communities and our societies, there is an uptick in people having a hard time getting married, for a wide array of reasons. People who are married having troubles in their marriages. People who are getting divorced. Divorce is not a good thing, but sometimes it's a
Yeah.
necessary thing. And when divorce happens, people are making each other's lives miserable and each other's lives hell. How can we make those things better? And Ihsan Coaching also provides post-marital coaching to help people out in those cases. People who are having problems with, maybe having children, like after they've had children, people's lives are up and down. People who are having problem having children, people who are having problems with their in-laws. There's so much stuff going on. And especially, like, right now, the finding a spouse and the premarital has become a big area of problem. And those areas, they really do a good job in, and they strive in, and they help couples understand each other before they get married. So, and over the next few weeks we're going to go over, like, a few things like demands in marriages and stuff like that as well, which is a really spicy topic for a lot of people. But it's a topic that becomes a problem for people getting married. So you want to shed any light into like the premarital side? Why it's so important?
Yeah, alhamdulillah, we have a great premarital program over here. It's over 5 sessions for a total of $500. Each session is 50 minutes, 50 minutes long. And why I believe it's so important is because a lot of times people don't know what they're getting themselves into, right? They find somebody that they're interested in, but they're not asking the important questions. Often that when we see premarital couples and we talk to them about and we bring up certain topics, they're like, "Oh, we never thought about that, or we never discussed it." And they're and also even if they did discuss it, they're not asking each other the tough questions, right? They're not going into depth because they're scared, they're afraid. Like I just had this premarital couple that I just saw right before our session, and they said that yeah, we didn't want to push too much, right? Because I didn't know how the other person would feel if I asked those questions, but they thanked me for being the one to facilitate that conversation, right? To talk about those tough conversations, and now because of it, more conversations spawned off of it. So sometimes having that third party is very beneficial because you might not feel comfortable discussing it by yourselves. And now having somebody else there, it relaxes the atmosphere, it makes us more relaxed and allows us to speak on these topics that we wouldn't have. So, alhamdulillah, we've seen over close to 375 premarital couples by now, right? Over a 4 year span. And I would have to say about 65 to 70 of them going through our premarital program realized that they were not compatible with each other. They called it off. They said that, they realized that, okay, this is not the best person for me. The person was not a bad person, but it was not right for them. And that's what I say 65 to 70 different marriages that were saved. Because you and I both know, and you do, you talk to a lot of people that are going through divorce or marital issues, is a lot of this is preventable. A lot of this could have been they could have noticed it from the beginning and realized, okay, we should do something about this beforehand.
Yeah, that's true. So basically, I remember when my mother was alive, she used to say something.
Right.
We would hear about couples who got engaged, and they would be engaged for like 3, 4, 5 years, and after 5 years, they'd be like, "Oh, understanding nahi bani," and my mom would be like understanding the पहले 6 महीने में समझ आ जानी चाहिए कि बनेगी कि नहीं. That whether you'll be able to understand the other person, you should be able to get it within 6 months. It shouldn't take 4 to 5 years to understand that.
So okay, I get your mom is right. Uh,
Oh,
a lot.
sorry. You got to say
Oh,
that again. I accidentally muted you instead of myself.
but you don't want to hear what I have to say. No, I'm
No,
just kidding.
I'm trying to mute myself.
I'm just kidding. So your mom is right in the sense that look, you could tell how a person is right when you meet them, right? When if you have good chemistry with them or not. But when you start living with them, the Prophet ﷺ said you never really truly know a person until you either live with them or you travel with them. Or, some people, I mean, you do business with them as well, right? Because those are intimate situations that you're going to be with them. Um, why is this so important? Because look, we don't date. Muslims are well, we're not supposed to date. Muslims a lot of Muslims do date, but we're not supposed to date, and you really don't know a person fully until you marry them and start living with them. But according to the research, most divorces happen in the first 3 years of marriage. If a couple could last more than 3 years, the divorce rate drops almost 45%. Why is this so significant? Is because we can learn something from this is that it takes time to adjust. It takes time to change and, accommodate for your spouse. So, let's just give the average person, the Prophet ﷺ got married when he was 25, right? So let's just take that age for instance. So now a 25-year-old, for 25 years of their life, they formulated their own habits. They've done things a certain way. They might like to put the clothes away in a certain manner. They like to do the dishes a little bit later, right? So now they're used to doing things their way. Now they get married to a spouse who, again, for 25 years of their life, They're used to doing something completely different. What do you think is going to happen? Of course, they're going to, it's going to bother them, right? Of course, it's going to take time for them to adjust to their spouse. And that does take time. I tell everybody it took me and my wife about 4 years before we were on the same page, you know? But alhamdulillah, now we've been married for almost 15 years. So, alhamdulillah. So, but that's the thing. It takes people time to adjust with one another.
So basically, one of the things which I understand, I may be wrong, you can correct me. With premarital coaching, you guys ask those questions which need to be and have to be asked early on. Basically, the way people operate, especially in Desi society, is they like to procrastinate, and those questions which should be asked like within the first 3 months, people will wait 3 years to ask those questions, and they may never even ask them. And you guys then ask those questions and basically force people to talk about the serious things in life, right? Not just like, hey, yeah, we'll get married, wonderful, let's get on with it. Like I remember Maulana Numan Chima, he's a sheikh out in New Jersey, and we had a podcast about 3 years ago, I think, on marriage in the Muslim society, and it was actually a very it did really well. A lot of people reached out to me. Some people reached out to me that, hey, we're actually doing coaching now or counseling because we watched your podcast. And at that time, I didn't know you, and people are like, we didn't know that these are things we should do. But he's like, a lot of times people go to people who are underprepared or don't have the expertise in coaching, counseling, therapy, whatever you want to call it, and they'll ask like, oh, okay, are you happy to marry this person? Yeah. Are you happy to marry this person? Yeah. Do you like their parents? Yeah. Do you like their parents? Okay. Therapy, coaching done. Now go get married. So, are you guys asking those difficult questions which need to be asked?
No, I truly believe that we are asking those difficult questions, right? That's one thing that I trained all of the people that work on our team. Not only are they actual therapists, but we developed our own uh, program over here at Ixan Coaching that we offer every premarital couple that comes in, right? And that's why it's over 5 sessions. And one of the things that we do over here is we make sure we're asking those tough questions, because if we're not doing it, who is? A lot of times parents are just like, oh, I know their family. They could come from a good family, and then they're like, oh, they come from a good family. We come from a good family, and then they just get married. But how do you know how the individual child is, right? You don't know how they are. I mean, have you lived with them? Have you traveled with them? Do you know them on a personal level? You know of their family, but how well do we even know their families? You know, so nobody's asking these tough questions. And even if sometimes when you go to the imam, or you go to like somebody in the elderly in the community or whatever, they're even when they're asking, I've seen a lot of these premarital questions that they ask or heard about it. They're asking questions that are good, right? But they're not really relevant to how to make sure that, like, making sure that the couple is compatible. Like, I remember there's one example that, I read recently where the person was like, okay, do you know how to do ghusl, right? Do you know tell me that the faraids in, uh, like in salah and all of these things. Those are important questions to ask for anybody. Anybody should know that, right? In their own deen. But how does that translate to a marriage? You get what I'm saying? Like, yes, you need to know how to make ghusl so your salah counts. But that's something that's a like, go take a religious course for that, right? Go learn that. There's many courses out there that you could take to learn all of these things. But in a marriage, what you really need to know is, okay, let's talk about in-laws. What are you going to do with your in-laws? What are you going to do with your finances? What are you going to do with your children? How do you want to raise them religiously? How do you want to be? Are you okay with the person right now, how they are? And what are some expectations that you have, or what are expectations that you have when you get married to a spouse? Do you want them to live a more traditional lifestyle? Do you want to live a more a more moderate lifestyle, right? What is it that you expect? And yes, that's why we do have in our fifth session a religious consultation, where now like our mufti sab, or our sheikh, whoever's they choose, is talking about the religious aspect of it. But we also have to tackle it from a practical, like what's happening inside, on a daily basis.
You know what I would like to compare what you guys do, and I don't want to make it sound bad. What you guys do compared to somebody who isn't trained. Somebody who isn't trained is like a sparring partner, where you have all the gear on and everything, and they just got the pads up. Oh, okay, yes, good hit, good hit. But what you guys do is actually like being in a boxing ring, where those are the real questions.
We're,
And
we're
like,
we're the professional boxers.
you're the professional boxers, yeah. It's like if somebody goes into the ring with a professional boxer and gets training from them, it, they're gonna be so much better than if they just spar with somebody. So you guys are the professional boxers giving training. It's like going and training with Hakeem Olajuwon. Like, people have been doing that for decades now.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Hakeem
but
Olajuwon.
it's still NBA players. They reach out to him. They go down to Houston and they train with him. That's exactly like how if you would go to Hassan Coaching and get premarital or marital, compared to going to somebody who is not trained. Somebody who's not trained might do an okay job, but they're not going to do a professional job. And you guys are professionals in your field. So therefore, people should look to you guys. Yeah, you have to spend some money, but in all things which hold value and hold quality, you have to spend some money.
But I'm glad you brought this whole thing about like money, right?
You know,
I mean, how let me ask you this. How much do weddings cost today?
a whole lot.
Right?
I've
Upwards
been
of
I've been I've been
over
doing research.
$20,000 or
I've
more,
been
right?
doing research into that, and it's so deep and so difficult to do the research. I know a wedding photographer personally. I'm probably going to see him this weekend. He's become a friend. He's done so many weddings now, and this guy charges upwards of $10,000,
Okay.
and 10,000, like, he ends up charging close to 15,000 plus hotel plus transport. So you end up paying $20,000 to a photographer. Then there's a guy who does drums. I forgot what his name is. He's a Sardar. He's a nice guy, very nice guy. He does the drumming. He comes to people's weddings. He charges 800 to 1,200 a night.
Wow.
Spending on, what is it, five
Five
premarital
hundred
sessions?
dollars for
How much
five
is that?
500 for 5 sessions for
500, 500 for 5 sessions.
for 5 hours. Compare, like, I mean, and then people, they'll say, well, it's too expensive, right? But you're willing to spend $20,000 on a wedding. You're willing to spend over $1,200 on drums, right? ten
For
thousand
one night.
dollars
No. The drummer
one
is
night.
1,000 a night.
Yeah, 1,000 a night. But then you're not willing to spend on making sure your marriage is successful,
Yeah.
right? I mean, how what the average like, okay, first of all, one out of every three Muslims get divorced, right?
And that
And then
percentage is going up.
it's
That
only
is
going,
the
it's only going
that's the old number.
that's the old number, and it's only getting higher. And the non-Muslim divorce rate is 45%. So an average lawyer, right, costs more than $5,000, and that's on the low end. Like, that's like, it's a lot higher if you speak to lawyers. We're trying to save marriages. We're trying to make sure you're successful over here. We're trying to make sure that you know what you're getting yourself into, inshallah. So I always tell people, is like, look, what's $500 at the end of the day? I mean, if we could go cheaper, we would go cheaper. But the reality is, I mean, I think it's a fair price. And I honestly think that it should be a little bit more expensive, right? I mean, not just us, but even people that are other people that are providing the service. I mean, what can you put a price on making sure that your marriage is successful and you're happy? Because it really changes our whole mindset, right? If you're not happy in your marriage, you will get depressed, you will get anxious, you will not be able to prosper how you're supposed to. How can you function on a on a daily basis, right? So this is where I think that people should invest in it, investing in their own future and investing in their happiness, right? And the last thing I'll say, I know I have a lot to say on this, is that like we'll go out to eat, right? I mean, anytime you go out to eat, it's over $100 with your family. You know, you go anywhere. I mean, fine, yeah, people are saying where you going to eat, but I mean, I live here in Chicago. You go to Indian restaurant, you're easily spending over $100 on like 3, 4 items. And you're not only ordering one dish or two dishes. you're ordering like 2, 3 dishes. You're getting your biryani, you're getting your chicken makhni, you're getting your lamb chops, whatever it might be. Right there's like 90, $100, but that's like 2 hours of pleasure, or if that, or and then you spend over $100. This is a lifelong commitment to your spouse.
Yeah, it's people don't seem to realize, and this is something I explained to somebody recently. I said, if you end up getting divorced, right? You don't. If somebody is having problems, they don't seek coaching or counseling. They get divorced. They get married to somebody else. 6 to 8 months down the line, those same problems come up. I was like, you never got your problem diagnosed. You never got it fixed. So every marriage you enter into, you're gonna have the same problems. It's like Hollywood marriages. Why do a lot of these actors and actresses end up having like, 5 to 10 marriages? It's because they never fix the problem. And by the time they get to their eighth marriage, they're like 80 years old. So like, either they die or either, they're like, whatever. There's no point in getting divorced at this point. So, it's like that. Like for yourself, you need to figure out what's wrong.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just not us, right? Like, I'm not saying, oh, spend your money here at Ihsan Coaching and get help. I mean, I'm just talking about the whole industry as a whole, right? I
As
mean,
an industry, the Muslim marriage coaching, you guys are by far the most bang for your buck, the most value packed. There are others, we're not going to take names. They do a good job. They do a great job, but they're more expensive.
yeah.
So, if people are looking from that perspective, oh, it's expensive. Assign coaching is, a value, a value pack.
I mean, the reason why we did that was that, we did market research around the whole US, right? And like, look, there is a tradition within our deen, like of helping people for the sake of helping others. So we don't want to price it out to where it's only the elite rich now could just utilize their services. We want to be so that anybody could come to us and, get the help that they need in society, right? But at the same time, be a fair price,
Yeah.
or somewhat of a reasonable price, because the people that work for us, I have families as well, and so forth, and it's just like in anything. Like, you go to a lawyer, for instance, right? You're not arguing about them about their pricing. You're just gonna, if you have a problem, if you have a plumber in the middle of the night, you're just gonna pay the price, whatever it is, because you know that you need your toilet fixed, whatever it is. But then why is it for our mental health? We always like think twice, you know we start thinking like, oh, should I need this, or why are they so expensive, or whatever it might be. But in reality, it's the best bang for a buck. It's going to help us the most.
I mean, look, from coming from a Desi perspective, it's been seen and said for decades that, oh, this is bad, like coaching or counseling or therapy, and these are bad things. And there was this comedy video I was watching where the guy's like, a therapist is somebody who you tell the family secrets to, right? That's it was a comedy bit. There were two Arab guys, they were doing comedy, and they're like, oh, therapists are the people you tell the family secrets to. It's not that. Obviously you guys have to, you guys have confidentiality that you guys are not allowed to tell people's business. Otherwise, you can get in trouble. Even aside from that this concept, but the way we're getting married, the way we're approaching marriage, the way we're approaching everything in regards to marriage is a modernistic approach. So then what does it need? It needs modern solutions. Right? The whole thing which you said at the beginning, you marry somebody who and this and it used to work about 200 years ago. Even then, you didn't exactly know, but there was so many more clamps. It wasn't like somebody was going from like, Hyderabad and traveling all the way to America to get an education. They were going to their local neighborhood school or madrasa or something like that. So there weren't those, layers.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, nowadays we have internet, right? We have all these apps and everything. So you're finding people that might not even live in your locality. They might not even live in your own country, right?
Yeah.
Back then, they didn't have any of these things. Everybody knew everyone. They were all from the same villages.
Yeah.
Even today, if you look at it, we're the most. I mean, and there's nothing wrong with this. So I don't want anybody to be like, ew, like that brother, ew, right? But like cousin marriages,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's something that does occur, and there's nothing wrong with it. And where does it happen the most? In Pakistan, right? And a lot of Muslim countries, people marry their own family members still today because of that reason, because they know one another. They know how the character of the child is because they've seen them growing up. you know. So nowadays you need more modern, solutions, because the era is different. Everything has changed,
Yeah.
right? And that's why we need premarital. I mean, you don't know the family that's living in a different state. You don't know the person that's living across the in another country,
Yeah,
right?
no, absolutely. So inshallah, we're gonna continue this discussion. Next week, what we'll probably do is we're gonna go over some scenarios. I've compiled a whole bunch of scenarios for Farhan, um, of what people have done in real life. And these are off of like Reddit and places like that, or people's testimonials of things they have done. There was one where the lady, I think I sent you the video where the lady was like, I'm married, my husband keeps me happy, he does everything for me, but I work and I fell in love with somebody and I don't want to hurt my husband's feelings, but I want to get married to this guy now. And she was asking the Mufti Sahab, what can I do? And the Mufti, there were two Muftis, and they were both like shaking their head. They're like, you're saying your husband's keeping you happy. Like, what more could you want? So inshallah, we'll go over those scenarios over the next few weeks, and we'll talk about marital and post-marital and stuff like that as well. And we're sort of trying to do a limited release where we're going to cover important topics. We're hoping people join in and ask their questions because we'll get Farhan to answer them as well, inshallah.
So,
So
so what should you call this session, like this segment? Tuesdays nights with Hafiz Asad and Farhan.
no, probably like Tuesday nights with Farhan. I'm just the host. I'm the cookie monster of the show. That's all. Um, but any final thoughts, Farhan, before we sign off for the night?
I just want to reiterate to the audience out here, is if you know somebody that's getting married, please, if they can't afford it, buy them a gift. Like, this should be their gift for their wedding. Making sure that they are doing premarital. Nobody should get married without it. A lot of times people say, "Oh, we'll figure it out," or "No, why do we need this? We know each other's families." No, I mean, in Malaysia, right, the government mandates it, that before any couple gets married, that they have to go through premarital,
Oh,
and we should mandate this here in the U.S. or in our masajids. They actually do this in Michigan and a lot of masajids over there,
mm,
where they do not allow anybody to get married before they get premarital done. And even a lot of Christian denominations, they do the same thing as well. But why are we getting our precious assets, right? We say that our children are our most precious assets, but then we're just getting them married off without any due diligence,
yeah,
right? And
true.
then later on, when they go through their hardships, and then, who's to blame,
Yeah,
right?
subhanallah.
We didn't do our due diligence, and we didn't get them the help that they need. And anything in life, you always go to the experts, right? فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. So I need to do this here as well, inshallah.
Yeah. Okay, Jazakallah khair for your time, Farhan. Farhan is actively
You want to
coaching.
kick me off, don't you? I'm
No,
just
I
kidding.
can go for Salah.
Alright.
Farhan is an active coach. So this we've taken an hour from his sessions. So I hope he doesn't send me a bill. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.